Hi, I'm Katie, and this is episode 38 of Ornamentations, the first of the new year. Happy New Year. I hope that 2023 is getting off to a bright and beautiful start for you with lots of great stitchy time, and that you had a wonderful holiday, whether you were celebrating or just hanging out and getting some stitching done. So today we are celebrating the new year ahead with a look at my stitchy plans for 2023 and the projects that I hope to focus on. I'll be updating you on my recent finishes because I did get plenty of stitching done over the holiday, and then looking at moving forward with the Simple Harmony stitch along. I have some updates on that, and then at the end of the episode I also have a great giveaway to share with you, so stay tuned for that. I started my 2023 off on New Year's Day with the launch of the Elizabethan Valentine class. First lesson was posted the morning of the 1st. If you are a student, you should have received your login information last week and a link to the first episode on New Year's Day. If you did not, please check your spam folder because the emails did go out to everybody. I have double and triple checked everything. Speaking of that, I'm so unbelievably relieved that it seems to have launched smoothly, because I checked everything, I double checked everything, I went over and reviewed every single setting like a mad woman, and I was still irrationally convinced that I had overlooked something essential, that the entire thing was going to come crashing down on my head and I would be labeled an irredeemable failure. That seems not to have happened. I have heard from some of my students that you're already getting started, which is awesome, but as a reminder, the class is, of course, stitch at your own pace. So if you're just hanging out, watching some football, doing some holiday stitching, it's all good, no worries here. If you are not in the Elizabethan Valentine and you would like to be, it will run again in 2024, and you can sign up to be notified for the next running of the class. There is a link in the description for this episode. Other things. So as of the time of filming, there are 3 Bells of Christmas kits still available. Bells. And then Joy and Good Cheer is on pre-order until January 6th, after which both conversions will be permanently retired and no details will be shared about them in the future. And then the next Floss Tube kit, which will be this joyous season, as previously discussed, is launching on January 17th. Full details in the next episode. And as we discussed in the last episode, the initial stock to run on this will be quite low due to materials restrictions, holiday shutdowns, etc., 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 and pre-orders will be a long time coming. Details on how long that will be in the next episode. Unfortunately, everyone's still closed for the holidays, so I haven't been able to get further updates on that, but I will. Let's get on to finishes, because I've got some great finishes to share with you. The first is really just an embellishment update, and that's When Santa's Away, which now has its beaded spiral rope trim added to it. So I do have a tutorial on this. I'll link to it in the description. The crystal color is emerald, and I'll post the beads used. And I absolutely love it. I think the dark blue-green is the perfect complement to this stitch. The one downside to it is it does kind of the same thing it's doing with my sweater here, which is that dark green edge doesn't really pop against the tree the way that the red or the crystal or the bridal colors do. It's still beautiful though, and I'm really satisfied with it. So that's When Santa's Away, and if Carolyn ever puts her red trim on her finish, I'll see if I can get a twinning photo of the two together, because oh, that's fun. And then my next finish, I've got stuff everywhere, sorry, it took me a moment to locate the chart, is the second ornament from Santa's Night. So I had previously shown you my stitch of the bottom ornament here, which was inspired by Laura, the Cereal Starters stitch, And I enjoyed this so much that I decided to stitch top ornament as well. And then this is my stitch. And of course, thread information will be in the description. So I cut off the skyline to make this a little smaller and more rectangular rather than oblong. I mean, I know this is a rectangle, but a more gracefully proportioned rectangle, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So cute. I absolutely love this guy. A little less obvious sparkle than the other one, but a lovely little ornament for the tree nonetheless. I'm having a ton of fun with Katie's Sparkle Prim, as you're about to see in a minute, or well, as you will see on the next episode. You're seeing the prelude to Katie's Sparkle Prim in a minute. And that was my Christmas Eve, Christmas Day stitch. I didn't finish this on Christmas Day. There's a lot of block stitching. So this is an old Brenda Gervais chart, Merry and Bright. It was shown by Laura on our Christmas chart parade a few episodes ago. So I knew I wanted to stitch this, but with some of the elements removed, I wanted to streamline it. So I removed the swags, the house, some of the extraneous greenery. And then I darkened up the colors a bit as well, because I've been trying to think more about how my pieces will go together if they're not ornaments on the tree, or rather if they're going to be displays. And I want Merry and Bright to coordinate with Santa Stops Here, which will be the Christmas in July floss tube kit. It's going to be stitched on Himalayan Fog. And I want to use my favorite beautiful, luscious, bright red silk 779 for that, so that these would coordinate and go together but not match. I decided to darken up the colors a little bit on Merry and Bright, which I stitched on Cloister Cream. So the red here is 945. It's a beautiful, slightly darker red with a little more blue undertone. 779 is a true, vibrant, clear primary tone red. My greens are darker, and as you can see, some elements are missing. And then this is fully stitched, but not yet embellished. So the holly berries will go in. They're going to be beads. They're going to be bead accents for Santa's eyes. I'm going to give him beard some texture, dazzle up the snowman a little bit, and then that nice big mound there is going to get fully covered in sequins like I did on Santa's Night. I think that's gonna be great. So this is the before. We'll be looking at the finished after on the next episode, and then a few other details about this. So the snowman is stitched in a Dale color called Mode. I wanted to have them as two different whites, which is a little tricky on Cloister Cream because you can't use an off-white. They just ghost terribly. So I was stuck with the more optic whites, and because the ground is going to be covered in sparkles, aka sequins and beads, they could have both been the same white, but for the sake of experimentation, I went for Dale and then Gobelins Blanc on the ground. So I will insert some photos here so you can see the difference. The Gobelins is much sharper. A question that comes up frequently on my channel is how sharp and defined my crosses are. I go into detail about that in the Specialty Thread tutorial part 1, so if you're interested, I do recommend watching that, which explains all the different silks that I stitch with. But the short version of that is that that's a combination of using high twist silk with the right count for it to sit neatly in the weave. So Gobelins on 38 to 40, for example, sits very, very neatly in the weave, and that's what gives you those super sharp crosses. So on the sparkly trim on Santa's robe, that's 103 with Accentuate. It's not that much thicker, but the crosses just aren't as neat because you're packing them into the weave. They don't have as much room to sit nicely next to each other. So I'm really looking forward to embellishing this. We'll see that on the next episode, so stay tuned for the full sparkleification of Merry and Bright. I'm really looking forward to this. It was a perfect Christmas stitch because our Christmas is always very, very relaxed. We get together, we open presents, and then we spend the rest of the day basically hanging out, eating lots and lots of food, watching sports, and just chilling. So I was just stitching, eating ginger cookies, and also dressed like a rainbow squid. One of my brother's favorite gag gifts are to give us all silly hats. So we all spent Christmas dressed like different sea creatures, and I was a rainbow squid. True story. I spent Christmas stitching this dressed like this. We're very strange people, but you know what? It was fun. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. That was my Christmas. I was dressed as a rainbow squid. I got lots of stitching done. It was a great time. Oh, but Christmas. So, I'm trying to think what I was supposed to do next. Christmas gifts or finishes. Let's do Christmas gifts. So I received a couple of ornaments from my mom. She made me a new Cheswick Company ornament. This is the White Queen from Alice in Wonderland. And then I realized I forgot to show you last year the Cheswick she made me, which was from the 100 Acre Woods series, and it's so adorable. So I pulled that off the tree to show you as well. This is the owl. Isn't he adorable? This little guy is so cute. One of my favorites. He gets a primo spot on my tree. I absolutely love him. And then the other gift she gave me was something she stitched herself. This really makes me laugh. I believe that this is a JBW design, and my super overachiever mom, who is always saying that she can't see and she can't stitch like I do, did this entire thing over one. Can we all just sit back and applaud for a minute? Because I'm fine with stitching on higher counts all day long, but I really hate full crosses over one. 10 stitch, sure, that's fine. Full crosses over one, And she even did a crystal beaded edge. Huge applause for my mom. I love it. I'm definitely not the Floss Tube Queen. I'm pretty sure that title goes to Brenda and Laura. But this really made us all laugh, and it also has a premium placement on my tree. So beautiful job from my mom. And if you missed it on the last episode, she came on for a guest appearance and showed some of her favorite finishes and a little tour of her tree. And that was actually, yes, what I was going to do next was follow up on that. So when we had initially been planning that episode and talking about what would she show, she said, you know, Katie, we should show those ornaments you made when you were a child. I said, I don't think any ornaments I made as a child have survived. Which ornaments were you thinking of? And she showed me, and I had to laugh because I did not make those as a child. I can, in fact, confirm that I was 22 when I made the ornaments in question. And I brought one of them to show you today as just an illustration, I guess, of my journey with felt applique. So a few of you commented that you really enjoyed seeing the whole progression of angels and how I kind of refined my technique. This is a more stark example. So in the last episode, my mom showed you some of the ornaments she made as a child in the 50s. I have always loved these. So after I worked my way through the Nutcracker Suite, which was based off an old Vogue Craft Pattern series, I decided to start exploring felt ornaments. Again, I was in college, I was a senior, I was 22, and I wanted to make a version for myself because I couldn't steal my mom's prized ornaments off her tree. However, this was my first time working without a pattern, and trying to make a dimensional shape like this is definitely a trickier thing than working flat. And this is what I did, which was so successful that my mother thought I made this when I was a child. And this is my Santa. He's not very graceful. He's not particularly well proportioned. I can't say I did a very good job of replicating the pattern. And I was also struggling to figure out what materials to work with. So this is all just things I found from Michaels: stock sequins, beads, and acrylic felt, which is very, very difficult to work with. It tends to shred, it likes to fall apart. You cannot work up to the edge, and it's quite difficult to embellish. So this was where I started with embellished wool applique, and then this is where I am today. It's been quite a journey. And part of that has not just been developing working methods, how to make a pattern, how much embellishment can you take, how much detail can you add without it disappearing, but also what materials do you use. So a lot of people have asked questions about my various projects. They're not kits, they weren't patterns. It was just me mucking around until I went from this to this. Took me a while. It's been a journey of about 16 years making felt ornaments, but I have enjoyed every minute of it, even if my mom did think my earliest efforts were made when I was 7. Maybe not quite as advanced as what I'm doing today, but you know what, that's okay. We all start somewhere, right? That is not anything to be ashamed of. And if you are interested in embellished wool applique ornaments, Theodora is still available. The run on her was absolutely huge, so I've still got kits, and those will be up after January 6th. So if you'd like to shortcut all of the Derman string, that's how you can do it. Okay, had to reset because there was stuff absolutely everywhere. I couldn't find any of what I was looking for, and condense the madness a little bit. Let's talk Simple Harmony. So we have had some new starts over the holidays. As many of you already know, Brendan of Fox and Rabbits started on Boxing Day with his good friend Lori, also from California. And I believe a few other people started with them. I do have a very unwelcome update on the box, which is that it is currently out of stock, and I'm not entirely sure what the status is on that, if that's temporary, if they are sold out pending a restock, or if the box has been discontinued. This is a third-party seller from China on Amazon. I had reached out to them last week. I have not yet gotten an answer on that. So I'm not really certain whether or not the box will be available from Amazon in the future. I am hoping that this is just temporary. However, as a backstop, I do know of a box in this area that hasn't yet been papered. So my plan is to take accurate measurements of the box, post them on my website, and then as an absolute last resort, boxes could be made if you know a woodworker. They are very simple construction. There's no dovetailing. They're just rectangles of wood glued together, and as long as your exterior measurements are accurate, because the interior is papered to fit, all that needs to be accurately to size is the exterior of the box. And if I do hear anything about the status of the box from Amazon, from the seller, or if it does come back into stock in the future, then I will be certain to let you know. That's not the greatest news. Again, fingers crossed that it's temporary. We all know that China is having serious supply chain issues right now, and the box is made there, so this could just be a temporary surge in demand that they're struggling to meet, especially after Bren posted about starting the stitch along. So that's not so great news, although again, really hoping that's temporary. It is possible to work with a box that has the same measurements but isn't the Amazon box. One of our international stitchers did actually finish successfully with a box made to measure. She checked the measurements with me. The big important thing is just making sure you get the depth of the lid right so that everything fits correctly. And again, as soon as I get a measurement on a raw box, I will post all of that information on my website. However, happier update, there is a stitcher on the stitch along who has really innovated, and I am so excited to share this with you. She has very graciously allowed me to share her photos. The stitcher is Marianne Tiller, and what she has done that is just absolutely, oh my gosh, genius. One of those things where you look at that and you're like, oh, I'm gonna kick myself for the rest of my life. I did not think of that myself. So she has taken the single color pattern and moved into single shade. So she's using 4 colors of Go Balloons in a shaded green family. So these are 2123 up to 2126. And although the entire box is green, she shaded the motifs as you're seeing here. It is so unbelievably clever. I think it adds, well, clever doesn't even begin to describe. It's genius. I think it adds so much just depth and design interest. Isn't this amazing? This is also the first one I've seen using the lighter greens. So 2126, the darkest in this series, was one of my suggested alternate colorways. This is the first one I've seen with anyone stitching with 2126, only it's been wildly improved on from my original suggestion. So if the greens don't appeal to you, and I'll list what shades she used here, I think you could do something similar, shading gray to black. There would be some choices in red and blue. If that's of interest to you, I would recommend calling Needle in a Haystack, telling them how many shades you want to work with, and then seeing if they can help you out. They've got the most knowledge on Go Balloons. Make sure you ask for Kathy. So that's just fabulous. And then my own contribution on the stitch along for today, since I'm mostly relaying other people's information, is picking up a thread that we talked about a few months ago, and that's of personalizing and adding information to your box. So Susan Stanley has been talking recently about documenting your story, which she does on all of her quilts, and she's thinking about how to do that best with her stitching projects to make sure that your name and whatever of your story that you associate with that object survives. And that's something that, as I mentioned, I haven't yet done an adequate job of on my own Simple Harmony box, because all I have here are my initials and the date, which doesn't actually tell you very much at all. I had talked about wanting to use the space on the bottom of the box, which, as you can see, I haven't yet done anything with. Been crazy busy trying to get the Elizabethan Valentine off the ground, the holidays, the upcoming launches. You don't want to hear all my excuses. Thing that's going to be happening. But what I do have to show you is what I did for this on my finished casket. So we've looked at my progress on my in-progress Britomart casket before on my floss tube, but what we haven't yet seen is my complete casket finish. Britomart is actually the second casket that I've stitched. My first one is a full finish, it's a double casket, and we will look at that after I finish Britomart, because I think it's best to show the journey before I whack you with the complete finished object. But there is a definite story behind the stitching of my first casket, essentially what the theme was and where I got it. And it was very important to me that that survive. So what I did was I put a little drawing in the bottom drawer. So the casket in question is a double casket with doors. So it's got a full set of interior drawers, and the biggest one, so aka the most design real estate, is the bottom pull-out drawer. So as you can see, the drawers all had embroidered fronts, as we'll take a look at when you actually see this full casket. But I lined the bottom of the drawer with some information about the casket. So the drawing is kind of meant to look like an illuminated manuscript. It's in colored pencil, which I'm not great with, but it's a quote from Marvell that inspired the box, annihilating all that's made to a green thought and a green shade. my name and then the date of finishing, which was March 2020. I put the hinges and trim on the box the last day of March in the year 2020, so I marked that as the official finish and then commemorated that with this piece glued into the bottom drawer so that the story, or rather a hint at the story and context behind the box, would never be lost, and also that my name as the maker would continue with it. So what my version of this looks like for the Simple Harmony box is something that I'm still figuring out, but we'll get back to that. I'll be sure to show you what I do when I do it. That's part of my stitchy plans for 2023. I'm just not exactly sure when that's gonna happen. But before we get to stitchy plans for 2023, let's talk haul, because I have some good stuff. So with watching lots and lots of FlossTube over the holidays and seeing what everybody is stitching, I have bought some more holiday charts. I'm sorry, some of you must be getting really sick of my holiday obsession, but I love Christmas. What can I say? Or rather, Christmas stitching. So the first, and this is going to be my next start, is the 2011 Prairie Schooler Santa, which is going to get fully sparklified. Let me tell you, it'll be stitched on Cloister Cream, because with all the Bells of Christmas kits, I've got lots of remnants and some very oddly sized ones that I'd like to use up. So 2011 Santa is going to be my first, well, sorry, my next start. I guess that'll be my first start of 2023. And then I'll be using the same silks that I did on Merry and Bright, just in a slightly different application. So we'll see how the colors change with different use. And then you've seen this everywhere, because I feel like everybody's been showing this, but the Quaker Christmas samplers. I think the more elaborate top one is what I'd like to do. Possibly Cloister Cream, maybe Russian tea cake. I'm still deciding on that, but I want to do it in dark greens. And I may shade them just like Marianne Tiller did on her Simple Harmony box, just as my little piece of her genius. These are 3 colors that I'm thinking about, so TBD on what I do with that. So I think those are beautiful colors, whether or not they're the right colors, and whether or not I do a shaded color scheme on this rather than a single shade. TBD. That'll be fun. I also bought the Stacy Nash Holly Basket sewing roll, which I'm not going to do as a sewing roll. I'm just going to do as a nice finish. I think this would also be another good complementary piece, the little vignette I will have going with Santa Stops Here and Merry and Bright. And then for Sparkle Prim, Prairie Schooler Woodland Santas. I have so many ideas about this, but I am not going to spoil the surprise until I get to this. That may not be until next Christmas, because goodness knows I have lots and lots of plans. I also bought Jacob's 2021 Stitch Along Modern Folk Embroidery, Reaching Skyward, which, it's somewhere in here. Oh, my pages are all out of order and I have no idea where the photo is. I'm sorry, Reaching Skyward, which is just a really beautiful design. I am not going to stitch Reaching Skyward. I have too many other projects in mind, but I think it's a gorgeous design and I really wanted to just support that. So I bought Reaching Skyward, and then I also bought Alternative Trees, his alternate centers for the Reaching Skyward designs. And these I definitely am going to stitch, although a little differently from what he's charted here. So I'm going to take those center mesallions and I am going to put them on Druid Blue and then pick out the design in white and tan, which I think will be absolutely beautiful. Oh, can you hear the rain? Here comes the atmospheric river. So these I think are just going to be gorgeous. You can do a beaded edge, you can do some sparkle, maybe even some sequins. And then finish these as round ornaments, which could be Christmas ornaments, or they could just be pieces that you hang from a door handle for other parts of the year. My mom always hangs stuff from a little hook up in her kitchen that necessarily isn't seasonal. She just likes the pleasure of looking at her stitching year round, which I always think is lovely. Speaking of Druid Blue, I did stitch something for my mother for Christmas on it, but I forgot to get it from her to show you today. So that'll be on the next episode. And then my last bits of haul, God, you wouldn't know it was just a holiday about giving, and I seem to have just bought a bunch of stuff for myself, or a new pair of scissors. So these are new, wholesaled by Access Commodities. They're called Apex scissors. They're quite inexpensive. I think they're about $24 at retail. Very lightweight, and the handles are plastic rather than lacquered, but I would say that in every other way these are basically Kohanas in terms of how they feel, how they handle, and they've got very fine blades but the slightly blunted tip. So I require a super sharp point tip for my everyday scissors, but I've been doing a lot of my Christmas stitching with these because I do like how lightweight these are, and they do handle quite nicely. Not that you can see because they're awkwardly hanging on my fingers, but Apex scissors if you're looking for a quick scissor hit, and let's be honest, who isn't? And then my most exciting piece of haul I have saved until last. So this was actually referenced in the first lesson for the Elizabethan Valentine. Because I'm a huge nerd, I always like to give some historical context about whatever it is that I'm teaching, and this was included in that section of the lesson. This is the recent catalog from the Whitney Antiques exhibition of 17th century band samplers. I write the Needle's Praise, which you can get from the attic. You can pre-order from Thistle Threads, and I am pretty sure, although I didn't check in advance, that Needle in a Haystack would be carrying this as well. So this is a full color catalog of all the band samplers, including 2 from Nicola Parkman's collection. And I absolutely loved this because my favorite form of larger project stitching is casket stitching. However, band samplers always really interest me. I think it's because of the aesthetic. They were largely 17th century pieces, and that's my favorite era of needlework history. So of course I was all about this. I absolutely loved seeing these beautiful, beautiful pieces. So if you're at all interested, I really recommend buying the catalog. The print run on this I know was small, so this is going to be one of those books that you buy it now or you wait 10 years, regret it, and then end up paying a fortune on the secondary market. Don't ask me how I know that. Always happens with these needlework books. You wobble, you decide, no, I don't think now, and then regret. So much regret. Okay, sorry. Should not turn floss tube into my personal therapy session. Oh gosh, what happened was a few years ago I found my unicorn book. The seller tried to stick me on shipping it up to the price by like 30%, and I was so irritated by being gouged basically that I told him to take a hike. And then I've never found the book at anything even approaching that price since. That's my rant about Whitney. It wasn't a Whitney Antiques catalog, sorry. Those two things are not connected. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Between the holidays, the Elizabethan Valentine, and the atmospheric rivers, it's been a long couple of weeks, and I'm sure this floss tube is sounding like a rambling mess. Let's get to stitchy plans. So I have big plans for 2023, some very exciting things penciled in, some of which I can't share with you yet, but let's just say there are going to be wonderful, wonderful things happening in 2023. However, plans I can definitely share. item one on the list is to finish my Britomart casket. So if you've been following along with me on that, I am down to the back panel. And as it's January, I'm going to return to my stitching on that. I hope to have an update to show you on the next episode. There's still a fair amount of stitching left, but compared to the overall project that is this casket, I'm in the home stretch there. So I'm really hoping I can push towards a finish in the first quarter of 2023 because, oh, I'm so close I can smell it, and I would be thrilled to get that done because, as I've mentioned before, the designs for that were drafted in 2015, so it's been a long time coming. I'd also like to start my next casket. I have been gathering supplies for that and thinking about what the design's gonna look like. It's been marinating for quite a while. And then on the cross stitch front, I want to continue with building my Christmas decorations because, as you saw in the last episode, I have a long way to go until I can match my mom. And I want to be thinking about how those pieces go together, how I create little vignettes. I was so pleased with how the Joy and Good Cheer turned out with the little sparkly berries. So doing things like that. And then really exploring the possibilities of Katie's Sparkle Prim. So we'll see the first iteration of that next episode with the fully sparklified Merry and Bright. I can't wait to get sequining that up. It's going to be incredibly, incredibly fun. I also want to have some fun with samplers. Though the Needle's Praise has really had me thinking about samplers. Again, I do have some charts for some great 17th century band samplers, and I've been thinking about, I guess you could call alternative forms of what you could do with that. I have a lot of ideas. One of them is not going to be here anytime soon, but sampler on a box. Anyone? Wouldn't that be fun? I think that would be fun. So a sampler in a box is something that I would love to do, although I really doubt that'll be happening in 2023. And then what else can you do with samplers is a larger question that I'm thinking about as we move through this year. And then there are also going to be some great floss tube kits coming this year, some of which are already in the planning stages. I have a new class coming, and that'll be open for registration, I think, this fall. The Elizabethan Valentine Has a Friend that is a complimentary object. It's beautiful. And then some other very, very exciting things that I will be sharing with you later in this year. But with that, let's get to the giveaway for this episode. So the silk giveaway of the silk satin backing fabrics from the 4,000 subscriber giveaway went unclaimed, and since there's been another spurt of new subscribers since, I thought to welcome them and to thank all my returning viewers that we would just redraw on this. So the keyword for this giveaway is silk, and what you get for that is a big cut of the silk taffeta that goes with Legacy Linen Irish Coffee, a beautiful vibrant red, perfect for Christmas. This is the color they use to line my Simple Harmony box. An off-white that I like to use with Fuller's Teasel and other neutrals, and then a lovely, oh, this is a really high quality pink, and this is a perfect pairing with Legacy Linen Wild Honey. So keyword silk to enter that giveaway, and then I will draw a new winner for that on the next episode. So tune in for that if you choose to enter. Good luck. So that brings this episode to a close, which I think was probably pretty rambling and disjointed. I am sorry about that. It's been a very busy time. I'm a little I'm fraud here. I'm fried. I am not a fraud, I hope. And yeah, it's really time to stop talking. But for next time, I will be showing you some progress on my projects, including, fingers crossed, Britomart. I will be showing you my fully sparklified, that's not a verb, but I am intent on turning it into a verb, sparklified finish on Merry and Bright. And then we'll be looking at how the same silks are used on the same ground fabric in a different project, because I will be starting my Prairie Schooler 2011 Santa, as well as getting to some casket stitching to kick off the new year. I hope 2023 is going to bring you every good thing, good stitching, great projects, and just wonderful things for all of us, that this will be a wonderful year. I'm very hopeful that there are wonderful things coming in 2023. So I will see you next time for the launch of this Joyous Season Floss 2 kits, for some updates for the winner of the silk giveaway, and for lots of other stitchy chat. And until then, happy stitching.